The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. 21 years of my life, 21 years of research that could save millions of lives. Gone in one sentence. Marcus Henley stood behind what used to be my mentor's desk. His cold grey eyes showed no emotion, no remorse, just the calculated indifference of a man who'd already made his decision before I walked through that door. "There must be some mistake," I said, my voice barely steady. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. I've been here since 2003. I know exactly who you are." He slid a manila envelope across the mahogany desk. "Your severance package. Security will escort you out." My hands trembled as I stared at the envelope. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when we were so close to a breakthrough that could revolutionize cancer treatment forever. The Whitmore Research Institute had been my second home for over 2 decades. I'd arrived fresh out of my PhD program, eager to change the world. Dr. Elizabeth Whitmore herself had hired me. She believed in my vision of targeted gene therapy. She'd funded my research when others called it impossible. I'd given everything to this place, missed family dinners, skipped vacations, worked through holidays. My ex-husband used to joke that I loved the lab more than him. Maybe he was right, but the work mattered. Every late night, every failed experiment, every small victory brought us closer to saving lives. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. Henley's mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. "Budget cuts. We're restructuring the entire research division." Lies. I could smell them from across the room. 3 months earlier, everything had been different. Dr. Whitmore was still alive then, still fighting the cancer that would eventually take her. She'd called me into her office on a Tuesday morning. Her face was gaunt, but her eyes still burned with the passion that had built this institute from nothing. "Sarah, I need you to promise me something," she'd said, gripping my hand with surprising strength. "Anything. No matter what happens to me, don't let them bury your research. The compound you've developed, SC47, it's revolutionary. The preliminary results are beyond anything we've hoped for." She was right. SC47 wasn't just another experimental drug. It was a precision weapon against cancer cells, designed to target specific genetic markers while leaving healthy tissue untouched. Our lab trials showed a 94% success rate in eliminating tumours. 94%. "The pharmaceutical companies will come circling like vultures," Dr. Whitmore had continued. "They'll want to buy us out, control the research, jack up the prices so only the wealthy can afford treatment." Her fingers dug into my arm. "Promise me you'll protect it." I'd promised. I'd meant it. Now, staring at Henley's smug face, I understood. Dr. Whitmore had been right about the vultures. "I need to collect my research files," I said, standing on unsteady legs. "Already handled. Everything stays here, intellectual property of the Institute." My blood turned to ice. That's 21 years of work, my life's research, company policy, I'm sure you understand. I didn't understand. I understood nothing about this nightmare I'd stumbled into. Security arrived exactly 3 minutes later. 2 guards in crisp uniforms, treating me like a criminal instead of a scientist who'd dedicated her life to this place. They watched as I packed my personal items into a cardboard box. Photos of successful experiments. A coffee mug my research team had given me for my 15th anniversary. A small cactus that had somehow survived on my windowsill for 8 years. The walk to the parking garage felt like a funeral march. Colleagues I'd worked with for years avoided eye contact. Some looked genuinely shocked. Others seemed to have already heard the news. Dr. James Rodriguez, my closest friend at the Institute, intercepted me near the elevators. "Sarah, I can't believe this. What happened?" "I wish I knew." I kept my voice low, aware of the security guards flanking me. "Jim, I need you to watch over the SC47 project. Make sure—" "Ma'am, no discussing company research," one of the guards interrupted. Jim's face went pale. He gave me a slight nod that told me everything. He understood. The drive home was a blur of shock and rage. My small apartment felt foreign, like I was visiting someone else's life. I sat on my couch, still wearing my lab coat, staring at the cardboard box of personal items. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. They're planning to sell your research to Meridian Pharmaceuticals, meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m., conference room B. Thought you should know. A friend, Meridian Pharmaceuticals. The name made my stomach churn. They were everything Dr. Whitmore had warned me about. A massive corporation known for buying promising research, patenting it, then pricing medications so high that desperate patients went bankrupt trying to afford treatment. I couldn't let that happen. I wouldn't let that happen. But what could I do? I was just one person against a corporate machine. I had no power, no resources, no allies inside the institute anymore. Or did I? I pulled out my laptop and started making a list. Every contact I'd made over 21 years. Every colleague who believed in the research. Every journalist who'd covered our work. Every patient advocate who'd visited our lab. If Henley thought firing me would make me disappear quietly, he was about to learn how wrong he could be. The next morning, I drove back to the institute, not to beg for my job back, but to gather intelligence. I parked across the street at a coffee shop with a clear view of the main entrance. At 1:45 p.m., 3 black sedans pulled up. Men in expensive suits climbed out. I recognized the lead figure from business magazines, David Kessler, CEO of Meridian Pharmaceuticals. His reputation preceded him, brilliant, ruthless, and completely without conscience when it came to maximizing profits. My phone rang. Dr. Rodriguez. Sarah, where are you? Watching my life's work get sold to the highest bidder. Listen to me carefully. Henley's been planning this for weeks. He approached Meridian before Dr. Whitmore even died. The entire board meeting where they voted to fire you. It was a setup. Half the board members have financial ties to Meridian. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd thought possible. How do you know all this? Because I've been documenting everything. Screenshots, emails, recorded conversations. Dr. Whitmore asked me to keep an eye on things after she got sick. She suspected something like this might happen. Hope flickered in my chest. Jim, if you have evidence of corruption, I do, but it's not enough to stop the sale. Henley's covered his tracks well. Everything looks legal on paper. Then what do? We make sure the world knows what SC47 really is, how much it could help people, how Meridian plans to price it out of reach for anyone who isn't wealthy. The media won't care about another corporate acquisition. They will if they understand what's at stake. Sarah, your research could save millions of lives, but only if it's affordable. Meridian's internal projections show they plan to price SC47 at over $200,000 per treatment cycle. The number hit me like a physical blow. $200,000 for medication that costs less than $50 to manufacture. We have to stop them. We will, but we need to be smart about it. That evening, I sat in my kitchen with files spread across every surface. Jim had smuggled out copies of crucial documents, internal emails between Henley and Meridian executives, financial projections, marketing strategies that made my skin crawl. One email made me particularly sick. The beauty of SC47 is the desperation factor. Cancer patients will pay anything for hope. We can position this as a premium treatment for premium patients. Insurance companies will fight coverage, which actually works in our favor, creates exclusivity. These people were talking about human suffering like it was a business opportunity. I started making phone calls, first to Dr. Patricia Vance, a journalist who specialized in pharmaceutical industry corruption. She'd written exposés that had brought down executives before. Dr. Chen, I remember your work. What's the story? I told her everything, the firing, the planned sale, the pricing strategy. She listened without interruption. This is big, she said finally, but I need more than your word. Do you have documentation? I do, and I have a source inside the institute who can verify everything. Can you meet me tomorrow? I'll bring my research team. Dr. Vance, there's something else. The FDA approved our Phase 1 trials for SC47 last month. We were scheduled to begin human testing next week. If Meridian takes control, they could delay trials for years while they manipulate the patent system. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for nearly 30 seconds. Dr. Chen, are you telling me they're not just stealing your research, they're potentially delaying life-saving treatment for cancer patients? That's exactly what I'm telling you. Clear your schedule. This story just became my top priority. I hung up, feeling something I hadn't felt since walking out of the institute in disgrace. Hope. But hope was dangerous. It made you careless. My phone buzzed with a text from the same unknown number as before. They know you're digging. Be careful. Henley's hired a private investigation firm to discredit you. They're looking into your personal life, your finances, your research methods. Watch your back. My hands started shaking. I'd been naive to think this would be a clean fight. I double-checked the locks on my doors and closed all the curtains. Then I made copies of every document Jim had given me, multiple copies, stored in different locations. If they wanted to play dirty, I'd be ready. The next morning brought devastating news. Jim called at 6 a.m., his voice barely controlled panic. Sarah, they fired me. Security escorted me out 20 minutes ago. What? Why? Henley claims I violated company policy by removing confidential documents. He's threatening criminal charges. My heart sank. Jim, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. No, it's not. This is about corporate greed and corruption. But Sarah, there's something else. Before they kicked me out, I overheard a conversation between Henley and someone from Meridian. They're moving up the acquisition timeline. The deal closes tomorrow. Tomorrow? I'd run out of time. There's more. They're planning to shut down the SC47 research entirely, at least for 2 years while they reassess the commercial viability. Sarah, do you understand what that means? I understood perfectly. 2 years of delays while patients died. 2 years for Meridian to manipulate patents and regulatory approval. 2 years to ensure maximum profit when the drug finally reached market. We can't let this happen. I don't see how we can stop it. The board voted. The contracts are signed. It's over. But it wasn't over. Not while I still had fight left in me. I called Dr. Vance back. How quickly can you publish? If the story's solid, 24 hours. Why? Because we have less than that before everything disappears forever. I spent the next 18 hours in a coffee shop with Dr. Vance and her team. We went through every document, verified every claim, checked every source. The story that emerged was damning. Henley had been in secret negotiations with Meridian for months. He'd deliberately sabotaged other research projects to make SC47 more attractive to buyers. He'd fired key personnel who might object to the sale. He'd even delayed FDA filings to give Meridian time to prepare their acquisition strategy. But the most shocking revelation came from financial records Jim had accessed. Henley owned stock in a shell company that owned stock in Meridian. The sale wouldn't just advance his career, it would make him personally wealthy. This is fraud, Dr. Vance said, staring at the bank statements. Clear, documentable fraud. Can you prove it? With what you've given me? Absolutely. The story went live at 6 a.m. the next morning. The headline made my heart race. Cancer research scandal. Institute director profits from sale of life-saving drug research to price-gouging pharmaceutical giant. Within 2 hours, the story had been picked up by major news networks. My phone rang constantly. Reporters, colleagues, patient advocacy groups, even some members of Congress. But the call that mattered most came at 10:30 a.m. Dr. Chen, this is Agent Patricia Morrison with the FDA's Office of Criminal Investigations. We need to talk. The FDA office in downtown was sterile and intimidating. Agent Morrison was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who'd clearly seen every type of pharmaceutical corruption imaginable. Dr. Chen, your research on SC47 has been on our radar for months. The preliminary results were extraordinary. When we heard about the acquisition, we started asking questions. She slid a thick folder across the table. What we found disturbed us. Meridian has a pattern of acquiring promising research, then manipulating the regulatory process to maximize profits. They've done it 17 times in the past decade. Can you stop the sale? We're working on it, but we need your help. You know this research better than anyone. We need you to walk us through exactly what SC47 can do, how it works, and why Meridian's plans would harm patients. I spent the next 4 hours explaining everything: the science, the potential applications, the manufacturing costs, the projected pricing. Agent Morrison took detailed notes and asked pointed questions that showed she understood both the medical and business implications. Dr. Chen, what would happen if SC47 never reached the market? The question hit me like a physical blow. Hundreds of thousands of people would die who didn't have to, maybe millions over time. And if it reaches market but costs $200,000 per treatment, the same result, different mechanism. She nodded grimly. That's what we thought. 3 days later, the FDA announced a formal investigation into the Whitmore Institute sale. Trading in Meridian stock was suspended pending the outcome. Henley was placed on administrative leave. But the real victory came 2 weeks later. Agent Morrison called with news that made me cry with relief. Dr. Chen, we've uncovered enough evidence of fraud and market manipulation to block the sale entirely. The Justice Department is filing criminal charges against Dr. Henley and 3 Meridian executives. What happens to the research? That's up to the Whitmore Institute board, but I suspect they'll be looking for a new director soon, someone with integrity, someone who understands what this research really means. The call came the next day. Board Chairman Dr. Robert Hayes, one of Dr. Whitmore's oldest friends. Sarah, I owe you an apology. We were blindsided by Henley's deception. The board voted unanimously to offer you the position of research director, full authority over SC47 development, complete autonomy in setting pricing and distribution strategies. I was quiet for a long moment, thinking about Dr. Whitmore's final request, thinking about the patients who were counting on us, thinking about the future we could build. I accept, but I have conditions. Name them. SC47 will be priced at cost plus a reasonable research margin. No patient will be denied treatment due to inability to pay. And we establish a foundation to ensure this never happens again. Done. 6 months later, I stood in the same conference room where Henley had fired me. But everything was different now. The walls were covered with photos of our first successful human trials. Patients who'd been given months to live were in complete remission. SC47 was working exactly as we'd hoped. Dr. Rodriguez knocked on the doorframe. Sarah, the FDA just approved our Phase 3 trials. Full approval could come within 18 months. Any word on pricing approval? They love our model, cost-based pricing with income-adjusted payment plans. The patient advocacy groups are calling it revolutionary. I smiled, remembering Dr. Whitmore's words about protecting the research. We'd done more than protect it. We'd proven that breakthrough medical research didn't have to bankrupt patients to be profitable. My phone buzzed with a text from Agent Morrison. Henley sentenced to 8 years federal prison. Meridian executives got 12 years each. Justice served. Justice served indeed. That evening, I walked through the lab where I'd spent so many years of my life. Young researchers worked late into the night, driven by the same passion that had sustained me through 2 decades of failures and small victories. On my desk sat a framed photo from our first successful patient trial. Maria Santos, a 34-year-old mother of 3 who'd been given 6 months to live. She'd been cancer-free for 4 months now. Her treatment had cost $847, the same treatment Meridian had planned to price at $200,000. I picked up the photo and smiled. Dr. Whitmore would have been proud. Sometimes the fight for what's right takes everything you have. Sometimes you lose your job, your security, your comfortable life. But sometimes, if you're lucky and stubborn and refuse to give up, you get the chance to save lives. Sometimes you get to change the world. The next morning brought news that made all the struggle worthwhile. The European Medicines Agency had fast-tracked SC47 for approval. 3 major cancer centers in Asia were requesting access to our treatment protocols. The World Health Organization was considering adding SC47 to their list of essential medicines. Our research, would soon be helping patients around the globe. I thought about that moment in Henley's office when he had told me I was terminated. How hopeless everything had seemed, how certain I'd been that 21 years of work would disappear into corporate greed. But here's what I learned. The truth has a way of surviving, justice has a way of prevailing, and sometimes, when you think you've lost everything, you discover you've actually found the strength to fight for something bigger than yourself. Elizabeth Whitmore had asked me to protect the research. I'd done that and more. I'd protected the future for every patient who would benefit from affordable, life-saving treatment. That's a legacy worth fighting for. That's a promise worth keeping.